Alright, well thank you for tuning in. This is going to be the official recap of the recent FSU competition at Meihan. Fire comp, really good runs, bunch of OMTs. We have some new faces, seasoned competitors. So the goal of this recap will be to break down each driver's run. We'll take a look at where they got things right, where they left points on the table, and hopefully this will also give you some insight as to the judge's decision. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at the competitors for this competition. So for the first round, we're going to have TDAO STO2. I'm sorry, my brother, I don't know how to pronounce that name. But he's going to go against Kevin. Next up, we have driftarFBMWNZ. I assume that's for New Zealand, going against Saggaboi. Third, we've got BaldisBasics and Pugh. That's Michael in the server. Toxic is going to get a bye. His opponent didn't show up, so his first round is going to go ahead and get a bye. And then last, we have AJ Kissel and Fredo. First up, we have Kevin and TDAO. Kevin's going to be leading. Drivers are off the line. Kevin hits his first clip. Third clip leaves a little bit on the table. We got a gap forming. Coming up to the donut, Kevin swings out really wide, hits the tire wall, sends it home. Gap remains going home. Now let's take a look at Kevin's run. So first clip, he's good. Third clip, you really want to be on the bump strips, not in the grass, but right on the bump strips. There's a little bit of space you can get. Could have got out a little bit wider there. Middle of the run, got about a 2-car gap going. Now coming up to the donut, he's really wide. Here you want to be on the bump strip or right in that space that's a little bit lighter pavement. Even though you want to swing out wide at the end to hit your tire wall, that's still considered an inner clip. And so you want to be tight on the inside line. So now TDAO is going to be leading, Kevin's going to be chasing. Judge is giving the fade. Drivers are off. TDAO comes up, hits his first clip good. Third clip. Now he might have got a tire in the grass there. You can get one tire off. Kevin's giving a good chase, keeping in proximity, following. Now right there he comes up a little bit short on the outside clip. He hits his inner mark. TDAO hits his inner mark, but he doesn't really bring it out wide to the tire wall. So let's take a closer look. So right here, zooming in, we can see he's got one tire in the grass that might be right in the outside edge of that bump strip. Kevin's good on proximity and too short. Comes up, hits the donut, and sends it straight home to the finish. You really want to dip it out wide. So if we look at the comparison, the side by side, you'll see how much further Kevin's out towards the tire wall at the end compared to TDAO. Kevin gets the win for that round. Alright, so next up we're gonna have Drifter and Saga. The streaming quality got a little bit choppy in this run. Apologies, and we turned it down for the later matches, but you can still see enough here to go ahead and make a judgment call for a winner. So let's take a look at Drifter and Saga's first run. Okay, Saga's gonna be leading. A little bit of a gap coming off the start. Saga gets really wide on that first clip. Third clip, he's about hit it where Kevin hit it. We still have a gap remaining through the middle of the run. Comes up to the donut, nice, hits his donut point, gets out wide to the tire wall, sends it home. Now let's take a closer look at Saga's lead. He gets out really wide on that first clip, right in the outside edge of that bump strip. Coming up the third clip, he's good. About a 1.5 car gap. Maybe 2 cars now. Donut, bam, he's right on it. Gets out to the tire wall. About a 3-car gap here. Sends it home. Next up, we have Drifter leading and Saga's going to be chasing. Drifter's going to be leading. Saga is giving chase. Drivers are off the line. Drifter's good on that first clip. Saga's right there behind him. A little bit laggy on clip number 3, but we didn't get any call for tires off from judge number one on the ground, wide on that donut there, and sends it home. We can see Sagga's right there with him in the smoke line. A little bit of a gap towards the end, but it wasn't too bad. Right, so now that we've seen each driver's run, let's look at some side-by-side comparisons and see what gave Sagga the win here. On the left side here, we have Sagga leading. On the right side, we have Drifter leading, and it's easily apparent Sagga's doing a much better job keeping proximity mid-run. Moving on to the donut, Sagga's nice and tight on the inside line. Drifter's hitting maybe the outside edge of that clip. I'll throw up a circle on the screen, but he could have done a much better job of staying tight. Now, Sagga's also got a gap here forming, but he's at least kind of matching the angle. He's a little bit out of the smoke line. I would say the rear half of his car is probably in that smoke line, but compared to Sagga's chase, he's doing a much better job on chase. We're halfway through the first round. Let's go ahead and take a look at where we stand. So Kevin and T-Dow. Kevin gets the win, and we'll be moving on. Drifter and Sagga. Sagga gets the win, and we'll see Kevin in the next round. Toxic is going to go ahead and get a bye. We still have AJ Kissel and Fredo, BaldisBasics, and Pugh/Michael. But you know what? I don't really feel like saying Pugh for the rest of this recap, so I think I'm just going to stick with Michael. Second half of the first round at the line, we have Michael and BaldisBasics. Michael is going to be leading. BaldisBasics getting chased. Drivers get the fade and they're off the line. Nice and wide on that first clip by Michael. Third clip, he's good. Comes in. Baldy's keeping a really good chase here. A little bit of a gap. Bam, hits the donut. Comes out wide to the tire wall. Good lead by Michael. So that was a nice lead by Michael and a good chase by Baldy. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. So we're going to zoom in so we can see the start. Apologies for the quality here. So first corner, it looks like Baldy in chase is maybe playing it safe. Michael's nice and wide on that first clip, but Baldy doesn't really seem to be matching the angle here. Coming up to the third clip, Michael's out nice and wide. And around to the donut, you see the inside clip, hits it. It's out wide to the tire wall. Now we have about a 2-car gap coming up to the finish line, but it looks like Baldy has been able to maintain in the smoke line, matching the angle. So even though there's a gap, he's at least in the smoke line, trying to catch up, trying to keep the angle and match what the lead driver is doing, which is what you're supposed to be doing on chase. BaldisBasics lead, Michael chase. Baldy lead, Michael chase. The drivers are off the line. Baldy gets out nice and wide in clip 1. Clip 3 comes up shallow. Mid-run gap, not too much gap. Michael's giving a really good chase here. Baldy's wide at the donut. Michael, I think, was expecting him to stay tight, so Michael goes tight on the inside clip. But in chase, you really want to follow your lead driver wherever they go, as long as that's not going to take you off the track or make you crash. You really want to follow them out wide, so the judges won't have anything to say about your proximity. Your job is just to chase. So overall, that was a great run by both drivers. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at Baldy's lead, Michael chase. So clip 1, Baldy does well, hits his first clip. Clip number 3, he's really shallow, staying tight. You want to be far outside, coming up to the donut. So Baldy's out wide. He hit the clip, but he's on the outside edge. Michael went tight, and that threw Michael off the line. So coming up to the finish, we have a bit more gap forming than Michael was able to maintain through the majority of his run. The majority of his run, he was tight, but just right there at the end, he got a little bit offline and a gap formed, but that's not going to hurt too much. So judges giving the OMT. Got Michael leading, Baldy chase, drivers are off the line. Michael, good job getting out wide on clip 1. Clip 3, he's out wide. Now mid-run, got a little bit of a gap here forming, coming up to the donut. Michael hits it, gets out to the tire wall. Alright, driver's gonna switch. We got Baldy lead, Michael chase, Baldy's off. Nice and wide on clip 1. Clip 3 comes up short. Great proximity here by Michael. Super wide at the donut for Baldy. Alright, so now let's break down that OMT run and we'll throw up a side-by-side on the screen for you. Alright, so here we are at clip number 3. On the left side we have Michael leading, on the right side we have BaldisBasics leading. So at clip number 3 you really want to get out wide, so if you look at the start of that green line up near TJ, you'll see that it starts from that corner clip, comes all the way down. You kind of want to ride the outside bump strip, and then that'll send you into the transition going towards the donut. On the left side you see Michael got out nice and wide. He probably could have got out a little bit further, but Baldy had a lot more room to go there at clip number 3. Next we're going to take a look at the mid-run gap. Alright, big difference in proximity here between Michael's lead and BaldisBasics lead. You'll see Michael's giving a lot better chase on the right side than Baldy's giving chase mid-run on the left side. Got about a 2-car gap on the left side, maybe about 1 car, maybe half a car on the right. So here we are coming up to the donut. So you see the blue and white tire wall. Now that's going to be an outside clip. You want to get outside and hit that clip, but you still need to swing it in tight so you can make your inner clip right there at the donut, and then you're back to the outside at the final tire wall, send it to the finish to complete. But what we see here as the drivers come around, Baldy's going to stay outside a little bit too long, and that's going to throw him off by the time he gets to the donut. Michael comes off that blue and white tire wall clip a little bit earlier, and he's able to maintain his line, hits that inner clip nicely. So that was OMT number 2. Judges give him a third OMT. My God, things are heating up. Now you might say Michael probably had the advantage in OMT number 2 and probably should take the win now, but it's a lot harder to see these little mistakes when this is all happening live, and if the judges can't see a clear and definitive winner, they're going to go ahead and give them another OMT until they do. So OMT round 3, let's go. Let's get right into it. We're going to have Michael leading, Baldy chase. Drivers get the fade and they're off the line. Michael gets out nice and wide. Now I don't know what happened right there at the start. There's a big gap from Baldy. Not sure if that was lag, but he's closed the gap. He's much better on chase. Got a little bit of a gap there coming up on the end, but Michael did a solid job of hitting all his clips on that lead run. So now let's look at Baldy leading. Drivers are off. Baldy gets out wide on clip 1, coming up to clip 3. Much better job on clip number 3. Ooh, Michael is really right there. Nice at the donut. Baldy took it a little bit wide, but this time Michael followed him out, even if that took him offline, and that is round 3. So now let's break it down. Alright, so here we are at clip number 3. We got Michael on the left, Baldy leading on the right. So Michael's doing a much better job of getting out wide on clip number 3. Baldy's wide, but he's not quite as wide as Michael, but he's doing a better job than his previous runs. Now looking at the mid-run gap, got a little bit of a gap, maybe a car, half a car on the left side. On the right side, that's Michael chasing right on Baldy's door. That's exactly what judges want to see. Okay, now coming up to the donut, Baldy stays deep, stays a little bit too deep, too long, but he's able to get a little bit tighter when he comes up to the donut. He's right on the outside edge of that clipping point. Michael's nice and tight. We'll also see is a difference in the angle of the chase. So if you look on the right side, you'll see Michael's doing a great job matching Baldy's angle. Even if that's taking him wide at that inside clip, he's sticking right there on the driver. Baldy's got a little bit of a gap. He's running shallow, trying to keep up, and you'll see the angle is not quite the same. So with that, Michael gets the win, and next up will be AJ Kissel and Fredo. Drivers are at the line. AJ Kissel and Fredo. Fredo's going to be leading. Drivers get the fade and they're off. Got a gap there at the start. Fredo's out nice and wide at clip number 1. Great job. Ride the bump strips at clip number 3. AJ Kissel trying to close the gap here. Fredo really tight. 2 tires off for AJ Kissel. And that's Fredo's lead. Now let's take a look at the replay of Fredo's lead. Right off the bat, we can see here at the start, there's a big gap forming that AJ Kissel's going to have to shorten up. He runs a little bit shallow. Fredo gets nice and wide at clip number 3, rides the bump strip. Coming up to clip at the donut, hits it, gets in tight. AJ Kissel puts both front tires off. And that's Fredo's lead run. Drivers have switched. We're going to have AJ Kissel lead, Fredo chase, and get the fade. AJ Kissel does a good job getting out to clip 1. Fredo's right behind him. Clip 3. AJ nice and wide on the bump strip. Coming around to the donut. AJ straightens up a little there. Hits the donut well. Brings it wide to the tire wall and into the straight. Fredo was on his gas the whole time. Giving a good chase there by Fredo. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown of AJ Kissel's run. So we have here at clip 3. AJ's nice and wide. He's on the bump strip. Fredo's right there, keeping good proximity, not too much distance. Coming around to the mid-run gap, not too bad there. But right here, coming up to the blue and white tire wall, we see AJ straighten out a little bit, right there. And then he kicks it hard around the donut. Fredo's right there. And Fredo gets the win for that match. So with Fredo's win against AJ Kissel, that's going to round out our first round of competitors. Let's see where we stand going into round 2. So for round 2, we have Kevin against Saga, Toxic against Fredo, and Pugh Michael will go ahead and get the bye and move on. So next up we have Kevin and Saga. Kevin's going to be leading, Saga giving chase for the first run. Let's take a look. Drivers are on the line. We have Kevin lead, Saga chase, and they're off. Kevin does a good job on clip 1, clip 2 and 3. Comes up a little bit short on clip 3. We got a small gap forming here to the blue and white tire wall and the donut. Kevin wide again, but swings it out nice and wide to the fire tire wall, and they're finished. Drivers are going to switch. We're going to have Saga lead, Kevin chase. Saga lead, Kevin chase. Drivers get the fade, and they're off. Saga comes up a little bit short on clip 1, clip 3. Nice. Kevin's really putting on the pressure with that proximity there. Coming up to the donut. Might have a little bit of contact right there. A little too tight on the donut by Saga. He doesn't pull it out quite as far to the tire wall. Go ahead and take a look at their replays. Here we are at clip 3. So we have Saga's chase on the left, Kevin's chase on the right. So at clip 3, you can see both drivers are coming up a little bit short on the clip. You really want to get their outside tire on that bump strip like we've seen Fredo do, but that's not too bad. They're not too far off. At the mid-run gap, we can see Kevin's got a little bit better proximity. We can call that difference in proximity negligible. It's not too much. From here, as we come up to the donut, the outside clip at the blue and white tire wall, right there we can see there's a little bit of contact made by Kevin into the rear of Saga's bumper. Coming around to the donut, Kevin stays wide on the clip, hits the outside edge of the clip. Saga might be a little bit too deep on the inside of that clip at the donut, and with that we'll consider this round a wash. The drivers getting OMT and they're going to be going again. We have Kevin lead, Saga in the chase. Drivers get the fade and they're off for the first OMT. Kevin gets out nice and wide on clip 1. Saga's right there with him. Clip number 3, Kevin does a much better job. We got a little bit of a gap here for him. Coming up to the blue and white tire wall, Kevin swings it out wide again, but he gets nice and wide to that tire wall. Saga's right there. Saga's a little bit offline, but not too bad. Coming into the finish, so now drivers are going to switch. Saga's going to lead, Kevin is going to chase. Drivers get the fade. Saga lead, Kevin chase. And they're off. Saga does a nice job of getting out wide at clip 1. Kevin's right there on his bumper. Clip 3, he hits it at about the same spot that Kevin hit it. Kevin's really putting on the pressure with that proximity. Coming up to the donut, Saga, nice job hitting that clip. Stays to the inside and gets right back out to the outside tire wall. Now we knew going into this match that there might be a potential for a bunch of OMPs. These are both seasoned drivers. Let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown of this run. Saga on the left, Kevin chasing on the right. So through outside clip 1 and outside clip 3, they're about fairly even. Kevin may have done a better job getting to the outside of outside clip 3. Now moving on down to the donut. Kevin's really getting close on that proximity. Great job by Kevin there, keeping a nice close chase. But he gets out a little bit wide at the donut. He's on the outside boundary of the clip. Saga does a much better job of keeping it tight and staying tight, but not going too tight on the inside. So that was a really close battle. And as we expected, too tough to make a definitive call there, so judges give him a second OMT. So for a second OMT, they're going to line up. Kevin's going to lead, and Saga's going to chase. OMT number 2. This is OMT number 2 for Kevin and Saga. Kevin's going to be leading. Saga chase. Drivers get the fade, and they're off. Kevin does a good job, goes big on clip number 1, clip number 3, just a tiny bit short. Good proximity there, mid-run by Saga. Coming up to the donut. Kevin's out wide, but he does a much better job this time of staying tight. And that's the run. Good run by both competitors. Drivers are going to switch. Saga's going to be leading, Kevin chasing. Drivers are on the line. Saga lead, Kevin chase. They get the fade. And they're off. A little bit short on clip 1 by Saga. Kevin got good proximity, mid-run, good proximity. Really pushing that proximity. Coming up to the donut. Saga's nice and tight on the donut. Gets out to the tire wall, and they're finished. So let's take a look at the breakdown. So here we have the side-by-side. At clip number 3 up top, we have Kevin chasing. Down below, we have Saga's chase. You can see right at the midpoint between outside clip 2 and outside clip 3, they're about even. Kevin may be up just a little bit higher on the outside, but it's not too much of a difference. Now let's take a look at Kevin's chase through the rest of the run. So up top, we'll see Kevin chasing. He has really good proximity. Coming around to the blue and white tire wall, nice and tight right there on the bumper, through the donut, keeping that proximity all the way through to the finish. So now we're going to take a look at Saga's chase on the bottom. Mid-run, we have a little bit more gap than we saw in Kevin's run coming up to the donut. Now Saga chooses to stay tight to the inside, and I think that kind of hurt his position coming up to the finish. He was still a little bit offline, not as much proximity, and with that, Kevin gets the win, and we'll be moving on. Two OGs in the game. This should be a really good match. So Fredo is going to start off leading. Toxic is going to be chasing. Drivers are on the line. They get the fade. And they're off to a good start. Fredo gets nice and wide. Outer clip 1, outer clip 2. Good job, outer clip 2. Toxic keeping the proximity. Coming up to the donut. Fredo keeps it tight and tidy. Maybe could have got a little bit more angle there at the donut, but did a good job. And the run finishes. Drivers are going to switch. We'll have Toxic lead, Fredo chase. Toxic leading, Fredo chase. Drivers are on the line. They get the fade. And they're off to a good start. So Toxic comes up a little bit shorter on outside clip 1, outside clip 2, a little bit shorter. Not too much of a gap here. Coming up to the donut now, they've got a little bit of a gap forming. Fredo seems to be a little bit tight and offline. Not sure what happened there, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at the breakdown, see if we can see what happened there at the donut. But first, we'll start here at outside clip number 1. So here at outside clip number 1 up top, we have Fredo chasing. Down bottom, we have Toxic chasing. If you look up top at Fredo's chase, you'll see that even though Toxic is a little bit short on outside clip 1, Fredo's not really matching his angle. We should see those two lines more parallel. And if we look at the bottom, we'll see Toxic's doing a better job at matching Fredo's angle through outside clip 1. Now we'll move on down to outside clip number 3. So here at outside clip number 3, now Fredo does a much better job of getting out wide to the outside clip. You can see the red area where Toxic had a little bit more room to go. Fredo's angle isn't quite matched. Now that might be because Toxic came off of outside clip number 2 a little bit short. That could have thrown Fredo a little bit off the line, so it was maybe unfortunate for Fredo, but Toxic had an easier job chasing because it seems through the first half of this run, Fredo is giving Toxic a better lead to chase. Now we'll take a look at the mid-run gap. Not much of a difference in mid-run gap. Moving on down to the donut and the blue and white tire wall. So here Fredo chooses to stay tight. Now I'm not sure why he chose to stay tight there. I know Fredo has the speed to keep up, even if Toxic went a little bit wide there at that inner clip. The job of the chase again is to match what the lead driver is doing. So if the lead driver goes out wide, you want to see that chase get out wide there too. So we'll look at that again in slow motion. There on the bottom, you'll see Toxic's chase. Toxic is following Fredo's line. Granted, Fredo gave him a better line to chase, but the chase driver's job is just to follow that lead driver. Another point that hurt Fredo in this run is right here at the last tire wall before the finish. You'll see Toxic got a lot wider out to the tire wall. He's also holding a lot more angle than Fredo's holding. Fredo is under drift. You can see he's got smoke coming up, so he's on power, but he doesn't have much angle there. While Toxic is giving it a much bigger swing. With that, Toxic gets the win and we'll be moving on. I think Fredo's match of angle at the start and the match of angle around the donut into the finish is what hurt him there, but that was still a solid run by Toxic, no questions asked. Two great drivers. Toxic will be moving on. Next up we have Michael and Toxic. Now Michael's a newcomer to FSU competitions, but he's definitely not a slouch. As you've seen in his previous runs, he had a good enough previous runs to go ahead and get a free pass pretty much into this round. However, Toxic also has the advantage as he's just coming off of a run with Fredo, and so we would assume that Toxic is fairly warmed up. Drivers are on the line, they get the fade, and they're off. Pugh leading, Toxic chase. Pugh gets out nice and wide at outside clip 1. Outside clip 3, left a little bit of room, not too much of a gap mid-run. Coming around to the donut. Now it looked like Michael straightened a little bit there, and that kind of threw Toxic offline. Toxic seemed like he had to brake, and so that caused Toxic also to straighten out, but thankfully for Toxic, he was able to keep his angle and proximity coming up to the finish. So drivers are going to switch. We'll have Toxic lead and Michael chase. Toxic lead, Michael chase. Drivers are on the line. They get the fade, and they're off. Toxic hits outside clip 1 right around the same point Michael did. A little bit of a gap forming here. Coming around to the donut, much more of a gap. Not sure what happened to Michael there, but he had about a 2 to 3 car gap there coming up to the finish. So let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown of each driver's run. So here we're taking a look at the slow-mo of Michael's lead run. He does a good job at the start getting out to outside clip 1. Outside clip 2, he's not on the bump strip, but he's not far off. Toxic has good proximity. Now right here, he swings it a little bit too hard. He straightens out, and then has to throw angle back in it, coming around the donut. So he did definitely straighten there. Now we're going to switch and look at Toxic lead slow-mo. Not too much gap coming off the starting line. A little bit short, not on the bump strips at outside clip 1, outside clip 2. Also not on the bump strips, but they both hit it at about the same point. There's not much of a difference in the gap mid-run. But right here is when Toxic puts the pedal to the metal, and now we got a 2-car gap forming coming around the donut, coming up on the 3-car gap, and Michael just couldn't get the proximity there on the finish. Toxic gets the win and moves on. So with Toxic's win against Michael, Toxic will now be moving on to see Kevin in the finals. Great job by Michael, secures 3rd place on his first competition. for the final bout, we'll have Kevin leading, Toxic will be chasing, Kevin lead, Toxic chase. Kevin versus Toxic, the final bout, the battle for first place. Drivers are on the line. Let's get it. Let's go. I am pumped. I am excited. Let's fucking do this shit. Drivers get the fade. And they're off. Kevin comes up a little bit short on outside clip 1, outside clip 3, a little bit short. Toxic not giving up on proximity mid-run, coming around to the donut. Kevin swings it out wide, big and wide at the tire wall. The Toxic is right there on his chase, giving good chase on Kevin. Drivers are going to switch. We'll have Toxic lead, Kevin giving chase. Drivers are on the line. They get the fade, and they're off. Toxic comes up a little bit short on outside clip 1, outside clip 3, gets a little bit further out than Kevin on outside clip 3, but Kevin's got good proximity mid-run and drew the donut up into the finish, and that closes out our first match. Here at outside clip 1, there's not much of a difference here. Both drivers could have got a lot further out to the bump strip on the outside of outside clip 1. Kevin's a little bit further than Toxic, but it's not by much. Now we're going to go on to outside clip number 2. Here you can definitely see that up top Toxic is much further high. He should be on that bump strip, which it looks like he is at the outside of outside clip number 2, whereas you can see there is a little bit of a distance between the corner of that bump strip and Kevin leading on the bottom. We'll move on to outside clip number 3. Same thing, Toxic is out wider. He's not quite on the bump strip here. He came off of outside clip 2 and maybe cut in a little bit too early, but he's further out than Kevin at outside clip number 3. Mid-run gap, a little bit of a difference, noticeable difference. It'd be hard to see this live, but here on the replay we can see that. So here, let's focus on the top. We'll look at Kevin's chase coming up to the finish and around the donut up to the finish. Kevin's got great proximity. Toxic keeps it nice and tidy, but Kevin's right there on his bumper. Toxic gets out wide through the finish. Now we'll take a look at Toxic's chase, a little bit more gap. Toxic chasing there on the bottom. Kevin swings it big at the donut. He's on the outside, a little bit further outside around the donut, but he gets also deeper into the tire wall coming up to the finish, and with that drivers will get the OMT. So we have Kevin lead, Toxic chasing. Kevin gets out nice and wide at outside clip 1, outside clip 3, nice and wide, but Toxic is not giving up any distance on the chase. Coming around to the donut, Kevin keeps it nice and tidy there. Maybe could have gone a little bit tighter, but he did a better job than his previous run. So now drivers are going to switch. We're going to have Toxic lead, Kevin chase. Drivers get the fade, and they're off. Toxic comes up a little bit short on outside clip number 1, outside clip number 3, a little bit short. Good proximity mid-run by Kevin up, and it looks like Kevin straightens there right before the donut, but he brings it in nice and tight, keeps that proximity out through the finish. So let's take a look at the side-by-side. We'll start up top with Kevin chasing, Toxic leading up top, Kevin chase. So we'll see Toxic gets a little bit short on outside clip number 1. Outside clip number 3, he's a little bit short, but at outside clip number 1, I think Kevin could have done a slightly better job at keeping his angle there, matching what Toxic is doing. Even if Toxic's coming up a little bit short, we'll move on to Kevin's lead on the bottom. He goes bigger at outside clip 1, but Toxic does a good job of matching Kevin's angle at outside clip 1. Outside clip 3, Kevin does a better job getting out wide, but Toxic is right there. Kevin gave Toxic a really good lead run to chase. Now here we are at the mid-run gap. Not much of a difference. I think they're right about even through the mid-run. We're going to move on down to the blue and white tire wall and the donut. Now if you look at the top of your screen, right there it looks like Kevin went a little bit too big and then straightened out right at that outside clip near the blue and white tire wall. Made a small correction but was able to keep it tight coming up through the finish. Look at it again right there. Straightens, comes off big, straightens, and then brings it around. One more time. Straightens. Okay, look at the bottom. We'll see Toxic chase. A little bit more gap. Kevin keeps it nice and tidy. He hits his clip. He's a little bit further out to the outside than Toxic. And into the finish. That was OMT for the final match. Toxic takes the win. The official ruling was that near the start, right around outside clip 2, between outside clip 1 and outside clip 2, there was contact on Kevin's chase. That was the official ruling. Unfortunately, we can't see it here from this vantage point, but the judges have been pretty fair and forgiving for this entire competition, so we have no reason to assume there was any sort of unfair advantage here, and that was still a good clean run put down by Toxic, and Toxic will get the win first place. Kevin gets second. Michael comes in third. Great match and a great event, and we hope to see you all at the next one.